Good morning. Here I am. So today is a very fun topic for me. Good morning. Thanks for joining. Today won't be a 2-hour Facebook Live because I have some things to do in about 58 minutes. So I'll keep things a little bit more concise today. Good morning. Thanks for joining. So today is actually a very important topic, and it's on momentum theory. So this is one of my favorites. Hi, Carly. Thanks for joining. The momentum theory. So this is the glue that brings everything together. So this is one of the key aspects of the way that I teach these things, the way that I disseminate information. Hi, Tyler. Good morning. So first of all, thank you for all the birthday wishes. I really appreciate it. The amount of love and kindness and all the sharing and everything for my birthday, Thanksgiving. I have no words. So I just really appreciate it. Coffee. My Sedona cup. Red Rock Sedona. Good morning, Marla. Thanks for joining me. Okay, so I'm going to dig right in because I have just a little bit less time today to dilly-dally. So we're going to jump right into what is called the momentum theory. So you very likely heard of this theory already. It just wasn't called momentum theory. But for a lot of people, you may have heard this in terms of snowball effect, the accumulation principle of skill. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. Once I get the timing right, I'll be back to doing Facebook Lives almost every day, just with the academy and things like that, just getting acclimated to everything and finding a good schedule for everything. But the accumulation principle or momentum theory is absolutely pivotal. So for anybody who is really serious about dissolving long-term psychological suffering, this principle shouldn't be missed. It's vital, absolutely important. So let me just clarify that for a moment. When I talk about the accumulation principle or momentum theory, it is the glue that makes all this possible, that makes this transformation from butterfly or caterpillar to butterfly seamless, easy, effortless. Good morning. Thanks for joining. I missed you guys. I missed doing my daily Facebook Lives. Ooh, from Dublin. That's another fun word to say, isn't it? There's just some words. I can't explain why. Just some words are fun to say. Dublin. Dublin. Good morning, Shayna. Thank you. Hello. So the accumulation principle, momentum theory. This is the idea that we get best at what we practice most, that we can accumulate and accumulate and accumulate something. Hi, Anna. Thanks for joining. So we can see this in nature, and it's often been referred to as the snowball effect. So an avalanche typically begins as just one snowflake. One little snowflake combines with two snowflakes, combined with four, and then it exponentially increases. So oftentimes we can't see that. We just see the result while we're trying to get out of the way of the avalanche. So we're running. We're not thinking about that. But the accumulation principle is a key attribute to anything that you want to get good at. Anything. You get best at what you practice most. So for example, and I've used this example before, but does anybody know a really good asshole? You know, somebody who can just really seems to say the right thing to everybody just to piss them off. So they've gotten really good at being an ass, right? They're good at it. They practice it often. They're doing it all day, every day. So one thing I'd like to mention is that this momentum theory, or the accumulation principle, it is not good or bad. It's a way the universe moves, and it does not operate in binary terms like our mind does. Our mind wants to assimilate everything into yin yang, plus minus. The synaptic connections are either firing or they are not. So the accumulation principle is not partial. If you practice being an asshole all day, you'll get really good at it. You'll be the best asshole ever after 30 or 40 years of practice. But then again, what about somebody who practiced loving kindness? They get good at that as well. They get good at being kind even when people are not kind to them. They're good at being kind and loving in situations where maybe other people wouldn't be, because they have more practice. The accumulation principle applies to everything. Do you want to get good at basketball? You have to practice. So I practice a martial art. I do it every day. And I accumulate skill. The more I practice, the more skill. Good morning, Lauren. Thanks for joining me. Good morning, Tintin. I hope I'm saying that right, Tintin. So it's this accumulation principle of skill. And I was working with this in terms of gaining a physical skill, because I have been learning martial arts for a little while now. And when I started about six or so years ago, I really wanted to take my martial arts a little bit further. I was practicing 2 to 3 hours a day because I was told that I should, that you have to practice at least 2 hours a day to get your 10,000 hours to mastery. And at that time, the word mastery was still, woo, mastery. That sounds nice. And of course, I'm over that. There's no such thing. So I started to think about this. I want to get better. I want to really get better at my martial art, but I wonder if there's another way. I wonder if there's another way for me to perpetually gain this momentum so that I can continue to accumulate skill. And also with mindfulness, being fully present, expanding into the present moment. I also wanted to take this practice deeper. I wanted to do more of it. I wanted to practice more often. Well, I found ways to interject my practice into every single aspect of my life. So when I was cutting at the restaurant, I wasn't just cutting. I was using Ting Jing. I was using listening energy. I was still enough on the inside that I could feel through the knife, and I could feel the knife gliding through what I was cutting. And I could feel its connectedness to the cutting board, and the cutting board to the table, and the table to the floor. When I was walking at the restaurant or the movie theater, I wasn't just walking. It may look like I'm just walking to an onlooker, but I was practicing. So some people who know me from the movie theater, we were traveling and we were training for the new movie theater, because we were building a new one. And in one of these movie theaters, the entire time I worked there, I only stepped on purple tiles. The entire time. So that may seem weird. What the fuck is Ernest doing? Why is he only stepping on purple tiles? That's odd. I was practicing. Practicing what? Awareness. Being completely present in everything that I do. I would wash my hands. So in a restaurant environment, you're supposed to wash your hands for 30 seconds. You're supposed to say your alphabet so that you can effectively kill the bacteria. I would tune into that. When the water would touch my hands, I would listen to it. I would listen to the feeling as it went over my hands. I would quiet my mind and just listen and feel into the water And actually washing my hands became a very pleasurable experience. It's actually quite nice to run water over my hands because of all the nerve endings. So it feels really good whenever I wash my hands or my feet. What was I doing? I was practicing. Why? So I could continue to accumulate skill. What skill? Being present. So when I was working, I think it was like 2004 or 2005, because Illinois, the team in our college town was actually good. So it's easy to pinpoint that date because they actually didn't suck. So 2004, 2005. I remember that there was this individual at work that I just did not like. I just didn't like this guy. It's just something about him, just whatever, right? I thought it was something about him. Of course, that's not true. It was always just something about myself, but I didn't realize that at the time. So at the time, I was waking up and I'd be like, oh, fuck, I gotta work with this guy. And I would think about it before work. I'd be like, fuck, I gotta work with this guy. I don't wanna work with this guy. This guy sucks. And then I would start thinking of all the ways that this guy sucks and that I don't wanna work with him. And then I'd get to work and I would already feel anxious. And I was learning to check in and tune in at that time. So this was, I was making realizations even then. And then one day I came to work and he was in a really great mood. Like this guy was just bouncing off the walls with joy. And I wanted to be mad at him. I wanted to not enjoy his company even though he was in a state of jubilation. And I was observing myself and I'm like, Ernest, what the fuck? Like, what is going on? What is happening? Well, I started to pay attention. I started to watch these things. Good morning, Peter. Thank you. And I just started tuning in, checking in, observing myself. I got good at that. Why? Because I did it every day. The accumulation principle, momentum. And I would see this cycle. And I was like, okay, so even before work, I was running this through my mind. I was thinking about this. And then I get to work and it has already built up. And I was like, wait a second. Why am I doing this? What does this serve in any way, shape, or form? How does thinking about this before I actually get into the situation serve me? How does it benefit me? And then I realized it was gaining momentum. The thoughts in my mind were gaining momentum because I was allowing them to exist. I was allowing them to build and gain momentum. And then I thought about it. I was like, well, I wonder how many times I was actually causing the friction between us because I was allowing this energy, I was allowing this thinking to accumulate and gain momentum. And I was like, that's really interesting. Maybe up to this point, I had thought everything going on in my mind was just in my mind. Nobody else can see it. It's not real. It's not affecting anything. It's just thoughts. No, that's simply not the case. Good morning. Thank you. Thanks for joining me, Katrina. So I was able to observe myself in real time and kind of check in, like, what's going on? What am I doing? On a daily basis, my thought processes were creating momentum that did not serve me. Because again, momentum is not partial. There's no good or bad momentum. There's just momentum that could be either disadvantageous or advantageous from your perspective. If you drink alcohol every day, you will build momentum. Now, your liver may not appreciate that momentum, as the case may be. But it's still accumulating, it's still building, and it still has an effect. That's why they call it the snowball effect, because it is physically having this effect into the universe, into what we call physical reality. Physical reality. So I was able to observe this in myself first. And then, I really dug into it. I'm like, whoa. What is really going on? My mind is perpetuating these things. My mind is perpetuating all of these anxieties and all of these thoughts that make me feel sad. They gain momentum in my brain, in my mind. So that's interesting. I started to make those observations. What is really going on? So Tyler Forrest says it's because he's so, oh, you're talking about me. Introspection is very mutually objective. Life has similar tendencies and patterns, right? Yeah. I'm pulling on my own personal experience. Nobody can be more stupid than me. So you don't need to. Allow me to elucidate my stupidity for you and what I've learned from that. You don't need to be as stupid as I was. But it's because of all of those things that I have learned what I've learned. It's really just observation. It's really just seeing how things flow and how the universe itself moves. So there's this idea of momentum. What kind of momentum are we gaining? Where is this momentum going? What direction? Well, you can tune in and check into how you're feeling, and we can evaluate this. But alcohol makes me happy. That's okay. I'm not here to judge your drinking of alcohol. It may have an accumulative effect. It will. If you do something 3 to 5 times a week, it will have an accumulative effect. That's not my opinion. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's plus. I'm not saying it's minus. It will have an effect. All accumulative thought, all accumulative action will have an accumulative effect. The more you drink, something will be building. Something will be accumulating. Specifically, if there's no balance. If there's no balance and we're continue to accumulate at an exponential rate, well, then the accumulative results will increase. They'll be faster. So if you went from drinking 4 to 5 times a day to drinking 4 to 5 times a day, you will accumulate something. And I'm not here to tell you what. You can figure that out for yourself. And you can decide whether that is advantageous to you or not. So that's an interesting thing about the way I teach. I'm not here to tell you anything right from wrong. That's not my job. I'm not here to tell you that drinking is bad or that thinking sexual thoughts is bad or anything like that. I don't judge you. That would be completely inappropriate. That would be me using my illusion to judge your illusion. And I don't do that. That's insane. Choice and conscious thoughts is what I have been building. It's the momentum that I have been accumulating. I call it checking in, expanding the present moment through tricks of attention. This is how I did it. There's an infinite amount of ways, I'm assuming. But I don't know all of those. I just know how I did it. I just know how I've overcome long-term psychological suffering. And it was chipping away at it with momentum and the accumulation principle. I just chipped and chipped and chipped by checking in, checking in, checking in all throughout the day, creating space all throughout the day, turning absolutely everything I do into an opportunity to practice. Everything, every thought, everything. Every time I take a breath, every time I look at something, every time I smell something. So here's an interesting thing about judgment, and I'll just make this point real fast. There are no wrong turns. Everything that I had done in terms of my stupidity, my personal stupidity, that's how I learn. So I appreciate those things. I embrace those things. I had times where I was highly unconscious. I wanted to impress everybody. I wanted to be liked and all of those things. This is a typical story for a lot of people, especially, growing up in America. I don't know what it's like in every country. I can't possibly say. So in order to judge another person, that means that I also have to be attached to the illusion of myself. Because in order for the illusion of another person to exist, I have to first be clinging to my own, and I don't. I don't cling to the illusion of Ernest. Therefore, the illusion of other simply doesn't have the energy to exist. So there is, in fact, no room for judgment in my experience. How can I judge you? It's impossible. I can't. Because I am not clinging to the illusion of myself. Therefore, the illusion of yourself is definitely not something I could possibly cling to or attach to. Right, wrong, good, bad. This is all binary. I think people who know me know that I don't exist in binary. My brain does, but I am not just my brain. I have a brain, but I am not attached to it. I have a mind, but I do not cling to it. So moving along. The accumulation principle. I had learned that just by checking in, expanding the present moment, connecting to my surroundings in a visceral way, feeling into the environment, I gained space. And the more I did that, the more I gained momentum. The more I practiced it, the more I interjected my awareness into every single thing that I do, I gained momentum. And I realized that I have choice over my mind. So I thought about it even more. This guy at work that used to piss me off. I was like, wait a second, what does he actually do to me? What is actually interacting between us? He's not touching me, He's not threatening me physically. Hi, Stephen. Thanks for joining. That's interesting. You are in this world, but not of this world. Jesus told us to have no part of this world, but still pay taxes. Pay to Caesar what is owed to Caesar. That's interesting. And I think that's just what you just mentioned right there. I am in it, but I don't cling to it. I am no part of it, if that makes sense. And I think it does to you. I think you understand that. So how does this tie into dissolving psychological suffering? All psychological suffering is a derivative of thought. The thinking mind in words and dialogue, outside of the immediate response to stimuli. Good morning, Kim. Thank you. Appreciate you joining me. So outside the immediate response to stimuli, any type of psychological suffering is gaining momentum from thought, words in your mind. If you speak multiple languages, chances are you think in multiple languages. When you're around, for example, my teacher who speaks Chinese, when he's around Americans, he says, I think in English. But when I'm around everybody else, I think in Chinese, in Mandarin. It's the words in our mind, the way that we think, the direction of our patterns of thought that influence momentum. The momentum of depression and the momentum of anxiety are being perpetuated by you practicing it. Thinking. And when it's done long enough, that momentum can cause serious imbalances in the brain. And these chemical, electrical imbalances manifest in all sorts of ways. Deep depressions. And then at that point, it's not necessarily tied to the thinking mind. It's a chemical imbalance. It's like a mood. It becomes a background emotion that just underlines everything and makes everything gray and dark and just not quite alive. So the anxiety is gaining momentum because we're giving it what it needs to exist, worrying about the future, being anxious about events that have not happened, thinking in a way that simply does not serve. It just debilitates. I think strategically, of course. I can plan strategically, of course. I can use my mind as an elegant tool because I realize I'm not the tool itself. My mind and my brain is an instrument. Tell me about your instrument. Is your instrument finely tuned? Are you the master of that instrument? Or are you identifying with the instrument itself as who you are? I can't say. That's an individual question that we ask ourselves. So where do we begin? Well, I have 5 free classes a week that can help teach that, but also these Facebook Lives. Obviously, I'm not charging for those. I'm just giving this stuff away. So here's how we start. The best way to start dissolving all psychological drama, past, future, anything with another person that's not with another person. Nobody is doing anything to you outside of physical touch. I realized that. I made that realization, that aha, on my own. I was like, wait a second. Where is this all coming from? I feel terrible. Where does this come from? Good morning, Valerie. Thank you for joining. So the momentum theory, or the accumulation principle, is so important. It's the glue. So the way that we begin is simply learning to tune in, to observe ourselves in real time. This has been called mindfulness. This is not new age. I'm not making this shit up. This is not patent pending, not trademarked by Ernest. You can go and tell your friends. I don't mind. Anything I say can be redisseminated without my permission. I don't give a shit. If something that I say sounds good to you, then repeat it. Go tell people. Put your name on it. I don't give a damn. It's not about me. Hi, Michael. Thanks for joining. None of this is about me. I don't do Facebook Lives because I want to perpetuate the illusion of Ernest. For what? What purpose does that serve? No, I'm here just because I have been more stupid than anybody I know. But I've learned from that. I've gained momentum from that. And I can help inspire other people so that they can just make better choices for themselves. Choices that best fit their life. But for me, it began by tuning in, checking in, checking in, checking in, checking in, expanding the present moment with the trick of attention. Sound. I would ask myself, how many sounds can I hear? I can hear birds. I can hear a lawnmower. Not right now. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm just giving examples. But you see what I mean? I'm tuning in. I'm checking into my experiences. And we continue to gain a little bit of momentum, a little bit of momentum, a little bit of momentum. And sometimes when we're in the moment, we're like, man, this shit's not working. But then we look back and we're like, oh, wait a second. I am actually more relaxed than I used to be. I'm less anxious than I used to be. My mind feels a little bit more gentle and calm and powerful and focused than it used to be. Am I where I want to be yet? No. But looking back, I can see how far I've come. Checking in, tuning in. Let me read a comment real fast. I know my body is tired right now, yet my mind is awake and alert, and it doesn't want to turn off my phone. 2:30 a.m. here, and I haven't slept yet. I'm still identified with my instrument, even though I know mentally I am not this instrument. And that's okay. So we gain momentum. We kind of break it up a little bit. We don't ever need to get down on ourselves, and I'll get to that in a moment. So Law says, Eckhart Tolle said that mindfulness implies your mind is full. I can't shift that attachment thought. It rises every time I think of the word. I know what you mean, right? So mindfulness sometimes, because it includes that word full. So it makes somebody think that the mind is full of something, where in fact, mindfulness is simply observing. It's being observational of events as they happen. You're being aware of causality. First of all, the causality of my own mind and my own actions. I can see what I'm doing. I can see what I'm thinking. I can see how I'm talking to somebody. Good morning. Thank you for joining me. So how can I control sudden rages? I don't recommend exercising control. I have given up trying to control. I don't have to. I just have to open up and allow. What does that mean? It means being aware, being present. That's just remembering. No special skills required. It's simply just remembering. That's why it's not work. That's why it's easy. And what we do is we remember more often. And these sudden rages, you'll realize aren't actually quite so sudden. That even they require the momentum necessary to build to that point of rage. Why have I forgotten the feeling of anger? Because it no longer has the momentum necessary to build. One thought leads to another, and before I know it, I'm angry. That doesn't happen anymore. I have completely shifted that. My mind is an elegant garden. I choose the thoughts that I want to think. When something floats across my mind, I look at it. Oh, hey there, thought. That doesn't serve me. You can keep on going. Oh, hey there, thought. Oh, I like you. Let's think about that for a second. That's a good thought. Okay, you can go. You see how that works? This took practice. This took building momentum. I have only done one thing of significance in 38 years. Just one thing. I haven't walked on the moon. I haven't found the cure for cancer. Actually, I have, but that cure for cancer had already been invented. Thank you for joining me, Peter. And it's always available for rewatching if you'd like to. Your fear of spiders. I also used to have a little bit of a fear of spiders. And you know how I evaluate whether or not I'm building the momentum? When I see them, what is my response? I had a spider on me once when I was in Colorado. It was on me, and I just looked at it like, oh, hey. Well, actually, you don't belong there, so I'm just going to expedite your process to the floor. But I didn't jump. I didn't get scared. I didn't react that way anymore. Because also, the fear of spiders requires momentum. All of it requires momentum. It builds and it builds and it builds until it turns into whatever it is, a fear of spiders. And sometimes, the initial flash of trauma, maybe when you were a kid, goes into the subconscious. And then it causes, the thoughts. Of course, that's not exactly what's happening, but I'll explain that in another Facebook Live. That's a 2-hour subject in itself. Dissolving the illusion of the subconscious. I don't pick and choose which of Freudian psychology is bullshit, because it all is. Sorry, Freud, but you were a dumbass. That's not kind. I wouldn't say that to Freud if he was here. I would just be like, Freud, we can agree to disagree. I like your man Jung. So the best way to help with anxiety. So when we talk about meditating is just a block of time, maybe 15 minutes during the day. I wanted to dissolve my anxiety, so I decided a better way to practice. And there's nothing wrong with meditative technique. I do that. I meditate for blocks of time. I exercise for blocks of time. I do yoga for blocks of time. I do my Tai Chi, my martial arts, for blocks of time. But the real ticket came when I started to really practice all throughout the day. So an anxious mind is planted in the future. Nobody is anxious about the past. What, it's already happened. What is there to be anxious about? That's when worry, depression, and things like that creep in, because that's past thinking. So forward thinking is typically anxiety, which leads to stress, which leads to heart disease, which leads to the energy not flowing in the body properly, which can lead to all sorts of physical suffering. You'd be surprised how much physical suffering is a direct result of psychological suffering, if not all. So the best way to help with anxiety is to find a mindfulness practice that you can do all throughout the day, whatever it is. Whatever it is that can help you tune into the present moment as often as you can, because each time you do, you gain a little bit of space in the perpetual stream of dialogue. I call them tricks of attention. We can use tricks of attention, strategically placing our attention. Yes, Tyler, I do. Thank you for asking. A random question, but I do. And they put little, the little stools that you can set your feet on when you're on the, so that it gives you that squat position, because that's how the body was intended to do it. Now that is neither here nor there, I think. I'm not sure how that applies, but I'm still happy to answer questions. So the best way to begin with any type of anxiety or depression is, where is my mind? Just asking yourself that question. You can observe where the direction of your thoughts are going. Oh, I'm thinking about the future. That's where my mind is now. Does that serve me? No. That's what's causing the anxiety. I'm not strategically planning right now. I'm thinking the same thoughts about the future that I thought yesterday that do not serve me. So some people like to throw puns about being present. And that's okay, that we can't plan into the future because we're so present. That's absurd. I plan, but I do so strategically. I don't think a thought any more than it serves me. Does that make sense? I hope so. Good morning. Annette, thanks for joining. I don't know how to say your name. Kafula. Good morning. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. So if we want to start breaking up any type of psychological suffering, we can begin by observing it without judgment. It is what it is. It's there. We don't have to get mad at ourselves. We don't have to get down on ourselves when we identify a thought that doesn't serve us. We just observe it. And we build momentum. And we gain momentum simply by being more aware, not just 15 minutes a day. And this is why I did an entire Facebook Live on what I call the embodiment principle. I'm not going to be mindful for just 2 minutes a day. I'm not going to be an aware, conscious creator for just 15 minutes a day. I am going to be aware and empowered and awake all day, at least in some way, having at least some partial awareness tuned into the present moment. Body awareness really helps with that, of course. We're only sensing out there through in here anyway. Good morning, Justin. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. Namaste. Thank you so much. So that's actually where my teaching, or the way that I teach, excuse me, it's not my teaching. I don't own this shit. So there's nothing really all that special about this, right? I'm not better or worse than anybody. I've only learned to do one thing, really. And that's garden my mind in the present moment. I have mastered my thoughts. They don't rule me anymore. And they haven't for quite some time. Which is why my teachers were pushing me to teach. They're like, Ernest, like we're gently nudging you here, you stupid fucker, go. Teach. You need to do this. And then, of course, as I progress and I deliver these teachings, what now? We start to create this gap in the present moment, in our stream of dialogue to tune into the present moment. And then I get into all that stuff later, filling the present moment with something that brings you joy, filling the present moment with your own creativity, your own creative edge. So some people have noticed an expansion on my part. I think that's a good observation. So in the way that I'm delivering, in the way that I'm teaching, I have had an expansion. Just an observation, right? How? How have I learned to dissolve psychological suffering? How have I gained this momentum to expand in the way that I'm expanding? Inner peace. I can live however I want to live. I can do whatever I want to do because I have inner peace. I am always here, relax. Here, relax. When those two aspects are relaxed, everything else just falls into place. It's easy. I just need to allow it to happen. It's just as simple as letting go. Here I am, in this moment, happening now. What can I observe? Let's play the observation game. Well, I observe my thoughts, and they're not serving me. I'm already breaking up that momentum right now by playing the observation game. Do you see? It's easy. It's as easy as remembering. It doesn't feel easy sometimes when we're operating from that place of frustration, because we're operating from a place of frustration. We're frustrated. So it makes sense that when we think about things, they're going to have the the feeling of frustration. But all we need to do is chip away, chip away, chip away, chip away. Where is my mind? Where is my mind? Here I am in this moment. And then I expand the present moment with the trick of attention. I'll strategically place my awareness on something or someone, a word, a sound, some sort of mental imagery. Good morning, Lisa. This is all old stuff for you. I've talked about this in great length in class. But so the momentum theory applies to everything. Do you want to get good at disarming bombs? You better practice. If you've only done it once, when you're under pressure, you're probably not going to respond very well. Do you want to be a better lover? Practice. Do you want to be more caring? Practice. Practice remembering. And each time we remember, we gain space. Each time we gain space, we gain momentum. What kind of momentum? Awareness. Empowerment over our own mind and the direction and flow of energy in our own life. And before you know it, we're cultivating in our garden and we're creating the life that we desire. So this is Holly. She says, "Hi, Ernest. Hi. I will go back and listen from the beginning, but only just seeing that you are live. I have noticed that I'm addicted to the judgment of my own thoughts, getting lost in them. When I just have attention to the moment, I'm totally free to create." Yeah. So this is what I'd like to talk about now. So there is really only one way that I have ever observed that we lose momentum. Just one thing. So let's say, for example, I want to do 100 push-ups a day. For whatever reason, I just made that shit up. I want to do 100 push-ups a day. That's my thing, or whatever. It's just an example. And I only do 50 that day. That's okay. Tomorrow, I'll do it again. And tomorrow, the next day, I'll only do 60. That's okay. Tomorrow, I have another opportunity to do it again. I always have the next opportunity, the next opportunity, the next opportunity. The only time we lose momentum is when we get down on ourselves, when we start thinking self-debilitating thoughts, when we start beating ourselves up and judging ourselves. So now we're turning that negative energy inwards, which will then manifest outwards, as everything does. What's happening in here will manifest out there, just accidentally. So the more relaxed we are in here, the more relaxed our life environment becomes. So we can continue to fall short of that goal. Doing 100 push-ups was my example. And we don't lose any energy or power from it until we give up. And the only way that we give up is by getting down on ourselves and telling ourselves that we can't do it. Why would anybody give up if they hadn't told themselves that they can't? I wouldn't. I would never give up if I didn't have the self-debilitating thought, I can't. Well, let me just tell you, you can. You absolutely can. All of us can. I am not better than anybody here. I have just managed to remember very often to the point where I have gained the momentum that I no longer have any psychological suffering. I never build up the energy necessary to create anxiety, depression, sadness, any of these emotions. Not that these emotions are good or bad. Again, they just don't serve me anymore. Good morning, Mark. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. I do have to go pretty soon because I have a one-on-one meeting at 5 a.m. So this is the point that I'll leave you guys with. The only way that we ever lose this momentum that we're wanting to build, more peace, more joy, more love. If those are things you want in your life, then please tune into my message. Okay? Because that's what I'm offering. Peace, joy, enlightenment in this moment, in every moment, to where there's this background hum. Remember we talked about the mood of depression? That mood can take on a completely different composure. We can build the mood of a warrior. Do you want to know what the mood of a warrior is? Somebody who takes complete responsibility for the garden of their mind. Somebody who doesn't blame anybody else for anything. Somebody who takes complete responsibility for their mind, for their actions, for their thoughts, for everything. I am the I am. I need to take responsibility for that fact. So the mood of a warrior is relaxed, calm, allowing, ready, alert, focused, joyous, loving, connected, attentive. That's the mood of a warrior. And that has nothing to do with warfare. It just so happens that that mood is also really good when it comes to combat. I mean, we want to be more aware. We want to be more awake. We want to be more all of those things. So that tends to just transfer. In martial arts, we use gravity to our advantage. I didn't invent gravity. I'm just going with it rather than against it. It just so happens that the principle of going with rather than against has lots of applications, even physical self-defense. Because the principles can be applied both physically and metaphysically and can be observed outside of the human experience. So I take the mood of a warrior, calm, patient, ready, creative, insightful, relaxed. Where is my mind? The warrior asks themselves that often. Where are my thoughts now? Where is it taking me? Is that where I want to go? No, it's not. Here I am. And the only way that we lose momentum is by losing that spirit, by losing that mood of a warrior. The mood of the warrior is not, I'm not good enough, I can't. The warrior doesn't beat themselves up when they don't accomplish their will, such as doing 100 push-ups. The warrior will just try to find new ways. They'll think of new ways. How do I do 100 push-ups a day? Maybe I do 10 every hour. Brilliant. That's the mood of a warrior. They find ways to do shit. They get shit done, in a manner of speaking. It's called the get shit done factor. That's the mood of a warrior. And I'll talk more about this. This is the first time I've mentioned this. So for those who are in the academy and participating in webinars and subscriptions, the mood of a warrior. Okay. So remember, the only way that we ever lose momentum is by getting down on ourselves. We take the mood of a victim when we do that. We're putting the responsibility somewhere or on something else when we do that. I never feel angry. I have completely dissolved anger. It has no room in my experience because it doesn't gain the momentum necessary. People aren't just instantly angry unless they've built up enough momentum that it seems that way, because they've gotten really good at being angry. They find things to be angry about. Sun is shining. Fucking, I hate sun. I'm so angry at the sun. Birds. Oh, they make me so angry. It's just absurd for me to even try to act that way. It feels absurd anyway. So that's all I'm offering. That's all. That's the only thing I have to offer and to share of any value, is how I did it. How do I cross the divide between theory and application? And Eckhart Tolle's Power of Now, in just 3 sections of his book, we were already talking about overcoming thought. That seems like quite a jump, doesn't it? We just went from identifying that we are not our mind to being the master of the universe, of the garden of our mind, like that. Well, Tolle, I love you, buddy, but let's bring it back a notch. You know, let's take it all back a little bit. You know, how do we do it? We gain momentum. We gain the momentum by doing it, by practicing all through the day. Not just 5 minutes, not just 10 minutes. I'm not here to half-ass my spirituality. I'm not here to be a half-ass warrior in the garden. I'm not here to half-ass anything. That's not the warrior spirit at all. Impeccable intent, impeccable will. Holly, thought is thinking in terms of words, and dialogue in your mind and sometimes can take the shape of visions. This is the ego. This is identifying with the words in our mind. Conceptual thought comes from words. If you speak 3 languages, very often you're probably speaking in 3 different languages in your mind. That is what I mean by thought. Feeling is a sensory perception. We connect to feeling through our body. We can feel emotions. We can feel pain. We can feel joy. But we feel by going into our body and into our experience. That's feeling. But a thought to me is a thought to you and is a thought to everybody. This is just an observation. The words in our mind. Are you choosing the words in your mind? Are you the captain of that train? Okay, so I have a webinar on Sunday. It's just $5 to sign up. ElegantCrane.com. We're talking more about the embodiment method. how to fully embody these principles so that we can apply. We can all be masters of our universe if we apply. If we practice, 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 practice. Check in, check in, check in. Some thoughts do come as images. That's very true. And then it's the same principle. Are these images benefiting me? Am I the captain of these images, or am I getting lost into the illusion again? Am I identifying with these images and these thoughts as who I am? I am, but I'm also much more. So feel free to message me, Holly, if you'd like to know more. But you can also just read Eckhart Tolle's Power of Now, and he will lay out the ego and what the mind is doing, at least as good as I can. I mean, he wrote a whole book about it. But if we want to know more about the application, well, I hope I can help. Okay, so we do have the webinar. Webinar is coming Sunday, and that's it. The Academy is in full swing. On Monday, I will make the button public. So for anybody who wants to join the Academy, there's only like 3 or 4 spots that are even open at this point. So those who are on the waiting list will have the first opportunity for those last 5 or so spots. So yeah, that's not really an advertisement. I just want those who are interested to really get out there and get in it. Awesome. So thank you very much for joining me. I appreciate being able to disseminate this information via Facebook Live. Thank you, Mark Zuckerberg. I appreciate it. You have given me a medium to share my mind, and I'll be back with a new theory very soon. You never need to come to my academy. The classes are free except for one. So 5 free classes a week. You just enter the ID number into zoom.us/join. Bada bing, bada boom, you're in. It's easy, it's simple, it's free. So yeah, there's really nothing holding us back in that regard. Awesome. So I thank you so much. I really appreciate being able to share with you all. And I hope you guys have a great weekend. And I'll probably see you tomorrow in another Facebook Live. Peace.